Hi, welcome to Sunday Soul Food. I'm David Strickle, channel of Source and creator of the Taya Mindset Practice. I want to start today with talking about our eternal being. I have done a lot of work personally in my practice. I'm 13 years into the Taya practice and 55 years into following the stream at this point. And I have really come to understand what my eternal being or what my soul, what that really means. And to be honest, it took a lot of work to get to the point where I really understood what that meant. For years and years and years, decades actually, I have had this source voice that I listened to and really paid attention to, and for a long time considered it something that was external, that was being delivered to me. In fact, if you listen to a lot of the older teachings and even read the stream book, you'll see that I really referred to it as something that was external from me, that was flowing to me, and that I taught myself to channel it for everyone else that wanted to listen to it. And in following the guidance that was offered by the stream, I started a practice that we ultimately created for other people and named the Taya practice, which is what I call the practical application of the stream's teachings. Because I needed, the concept was one thing. Understanding what the concept of you're an eternal being, you are creating your reality via your thoughts, and your belief system is creating your life experience. Understanding that and understanding the concept was one thing, but creating a system that allowed me to detune the matrix, detune all the ego-driven, I don't want to say anti-source, but counter to source beliefs that we've developed for ourselves as human beings. Detuning that stuff, I needed a system to do that. And that's why I created my personal practice that I ultimately started teaching to other people that we now call the Taya practice. And the result of the Taya practice for me, and I do believe that everyone is on an individual journey with this, but my results are what I love to share with all of you, because since I created the Taya practice, I've been practicing it longer than anybody else. So 13 plus years into practicing this as a everyday, when I fall off the wagon, return to it, ongoing practice now for 13 years. Where I am today is I have detuned a large portion of my ego and the matrix teachings. Not all of it. We're not going to do that. I don't believe that it's possible or even necessary or desirable to detune all of your ego and just be a source being. Because the interesting thing is that in doing all of that, I stopped needing, which was a really interesting way to live life, to not need anything, to not need to feed my ego, to not need to worry about what anybody else thinks of me, to not need to go out and create abundance for myself, to simply allow. And I've been living my life in this allowing state in a progressive way for quite some time now, especially the last couple of years. COVID was really, when COVID hit and that big shift happened, that's when I really went deeper into my practice and really went deeper into detuning the ego, allowing more source, and experiencing life as a human being, but as a source-driven human being, which does not deliver perfection. And it was never intended to deliver perfection. The whole purpose of the ego, or the whole purpose of source manifesting in physical is to have an imperfect human experience. And the imperfect human experience has led me deeper and deeper and deeper into allowing more source in my being, and to really tap down that ego. And in tamping down the ego, the challenges that I've had over the past couple of years with this, and this is kind of what I want to get into today. And if you have questions, please type them in, or comments, please type them in. David, hello, I see you there. has been balancing this stuff, because you get so source-like that you really aren't striving for anything or wanting anything or needing anything. You're just enjoying being. There's just joy in the daily being. And it's so different than what the matrix tells us we're supposed to want. And then every once in a while, when my vibe is actually down, my low vibrational state these days is when I start thinking that I need more ego in my life, that I need to be wanting something. And then I realize that, well, wait a minute, why am I wanting anything? Well, it's not okay to just, just to be and not want something. You have to be productive. You have to contribute something. You've got to be busy. You've got to have purpose. If you don't have purpose, then why are you here? And that's still ego. That's still matrix. That's the interesting thing that I've come to understand, that, wait a minute, when I'm thinking those thoughts, where is my vibration? And I realize that I feel pretty good when I'm thinking those thoughts. I'm not beating myself up. I'm not on the negative thought train thinking, oh my gosh, you're such a loser. You're not doing enough. I'm not doing any of that stuff. It's just that, well, gosh, I'm so blissed out and joyful in just day-to-day being. Maybe I should want more, because I have this knowledge of how to create things, how to allow things to come in. Maybe I should want more. Well, that whole concept of more is the matrix. I'm supposed to want more what? Because the things that I really love, that my soul really loves, are already present and flowing. And the other things, the obstacles that have shown up over the past couple of years for me, those are all just things that are unwanted in the opinion of the matrix. The house burning down, gaining weight during COVID, my back problem returning, the business slowing down. None of that really matters, because I'm living a joyful, abundant life every day with those conditions and without those conditions. And none of them need to be permanent. None of them need to stick around and keep teaching me a lesson, as people often say. But moving through those experiences and appreciation of them changes them dramatically. So all of the things that we think we're supposed to want and need, I love in this practice stripping it down to, why do I think that? Why do I want that? Where's my vibration right now that those thoughts are creeping in, that I should be amping up my ego, back up a little bit and wanting more expansion? Well, that is the matrix. So I believe there's great power in recognizing that, and really being able to recognize what is the matrix, what is your ego being plugged into the matrix, delivering to you, what's that experience delivering to you, and what is source? Source is appreciation of all that is. Source is abundance. Source is well-being. Source is joy for the sake of joy. And we, all of us, are so steeped in the matrix that getting out of that mindset that you've got to be productive, you've got to have purpose, you've got to have something that's driving you forward, that's not true. You can, again, source-like being, you're not judging anything. So if you are really driven and really on fire about something, and it's rooted in your ego, that's not bad. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just understanding where it's coming from. So if I'm, that's how I don't fall into that pitfall of judging myself, because I realize when those thoughts come in, that should I be doing more? That anytime that question comes in, I stop and realize, well, wait a minute, where's my vibe right now? I'm not just blissed out in joy at the top of my spiral. If I'm thinking thoughts like this, that's coming from ego. So how does my ego serve me? Well, my ego serves me to create a new desire and allow it to come to fruition, allow it to manifest. That does create expansion, because if you think about it, if we're just blissed out in source like being all the time, or source being all the time, then we're not really expanding in any way in the earth environment. And there really is no purpose for us being here in physical anymore. We exist that way in non-physical. That's why we have vibrational flow. That's why polarity is always dragging us down a little bit. So we revisit that ego. And the matrix is a human creation, but we need to look at the matrix as a tool that humanity created for itself to provide a path of expansion, not this evil cabal of people that are trying to control the world or any of those things. So the matrix, we talk about it a lot to be aware of what it is, not because it's bad or it's something that we need to eradicate. The matrix exists. There's a template for life that we're supposed to follow according to the matrix. Yes, it evolves, certainly, because we're an expansive universe, and even the matrix is going to always be expanding. So the matrix version of what we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to do and have as a human being, that's evolving all the time too. But understanding that that's the matrix, source is abundance, source is love, source is appreciation of all that is. So where's my vibe right now? Is my vibe more source? Is my vibe more appreciation? Is my vibe more love of all that is and not needing for anything or longing for anything and just being in joy? Or is my vibe more matrix? The practice has allowed me to have that lower vibrational matrix aligned experience and not go down the thought train and really suffer in it, not go down the thought train and have these spin outs that just continue to compound. So what I see now for my spin outs is that the spin out creates an experience that I move through, and ultimately my ego is going to discern a preference to move out of the experience and to solve it. And in the solving of it, I'm expanding. And the solving of it is not always about the 3D concrete black and white solution either. It's just moving through the experience. So I'll use the house burning as an example because we talk about that a lot lately, because it's what I deal with in my life a lot lately. So my ego would say, I need to get the house built back. I need to make it bigger and better than it was before, so that there is some purpose in the having of the fire experience. And that I know that that's my ego. My source being is saying, why not enjoy the process of building the house back? Why not enjoy the new things that I'll discover and the things that I can correct that weren't the way that I wanted them last time, and really find joy in the experience and moving through the experience, getting healthier, moving out of physical pain. I was in, David has asked about detuned illness or physical pain. My spin out regarding health involves our reaction to COVID, Michael and my reaction to COVID. Everything shut down here in California during COVID. Our gym shut down. We quit going to the gym. We got out of the habit of working out. We got into the habit of cooking and eating a lot. Cooking and eating and going out to dinner became recreation for us. And we both gained weight. And my gaining weight, my back pain returned. And then I had like this inflammation returning and stuff like this. And I was so wound up in that I was going to a doctor asking for surgery. And this surgeon wouldn't operate on me. The surgeon said, you need to go do pain management. Well, at that time in that vibration, I was angry. I was frustrated. I just want someone to cut me open and fix this. I've never had surgery in my life. At 55, I have never spent a night in the hospital. I've never had surgery. I've never had anything like that. And here I was wanting surgery. Well, they sent me to pain management, and I realized, well, wait a minute, this is a vibration that I created for myself. This is my ego pushing against the weight gain and the pain and all of that stuff. I need to work on detuning this stuff. And so I did detune it. And in my detuning it, the solution started to unfold for me. The pain management started to help. I was guided to go back to a chiropractor that is a friend of mine, a mutual friend with Esther Hicks, actually. And we talked, he just saw Esther last weekend. So we were talking about Esther the other day. And so now I've created this joyful experience that's creating a journey for me to move through the physical pain, which was all day, every day physical pain for a while. My back was just killing me all the time, and getting out of bed was a nightmare, and walking, across the house could be a nightmare, and going for a walk in the neighborhood was almost impossible for a little while. It got really that bad. And it's like these things creep in, and not judging them and not pushing against them so hard, I just allowed it to happen. But it's okay that I allowed it to happen, because it's the experience that I had. It's the experience that I had. It expanded me as a being, literally, expanded me as an eternal being, to have this experience of letting my health unravel some when I was really, really healthy just a couple of years ago. So allowing it to unravel and allowing myself to have this physical manifestation that was creating pain created this scenario that I needed to have for myself, until I realized and remembered, well, wait a minute. Here I have all these tools, and I've allowed this to manifest as a result of COVID and other aspects of COVID. I was not allowing other aspects of COVID to really impact me. I was so, in all of that, in the appreciation of just the experience, but the health portion of it was a spin out. So move through the spin out, realize now that yes, the universe is always looking out for me. Yes, the universe was absolutely looking out for me, and not aligning me with a surgeon that just wants to, add another surgery to his docket and check me off the list. That I was actually deflected and sent to pain management. The pain management started me on the path to healing. And so it's not just about mentally healing yourself. It's about mentally aligning with healing and allowing the tools, the 3D tools, to show up in your path that allow that to happen. I've said that before. I lost a significant amount of weight in my 40s. And in doing so, it was never about just mentally deciding that I could eat whatever I want and never exercise and be thin. I think it's possible to do that, absolutely. But for me, it wasn't that. For me, it was getting back into the mindset of, okay, I'm going to cut down on my food. I'm going to cut these things out. I'm going to go to a trainer. I'm going to enjoy the process. And the weight loss journey in 3D, meaning I was actually doing 3D things to help this process occur. That was the expansive experience. That was the joy. And I know that when people discover law of attraction, I used to hear this in the Abraham teachings all the time. Somebody, excuse me, somebody would get in the hot seat with Abraham and ask Abraham, how do I just sit on the couch, do nothing, and manifest millions of dollars? And, I had the stream coming to me at that time. And I remember thinking, well, why do you even want to do that? And then here's Abraham basically saying the same thing. Yes, you can do anything. But if you're believing that your journey here as a human being is just to sit and conjure with no physical effort or interaction, you're missing the point of being physical in the first place. Because the whole action physical thing is part of our world. But action inspired through source-like allowing is very different than action driven by egocentric need. They're two very different experiences. As we all know, we've all done things because our ego or the matrix tells us we're supposed to. And in hating ourselves or believing that we're wrong or not in a state of joy, we go to hammering at something. We're trying to make something happen. Whereas when we're in this source aligned state of my desire is to feel better, my desire is healing, my desire is a healthier physical vehicle, and however that shows up is how it shows up. It's how it manifests for me. And how it manifests for me is my human experience. And we're here for the human experience. So finding, David's question is, how do you find genuine appreciation of illness and physical pain? That is a personal journey that when you are thinking about the physical pain, understand that when you're pushing against it, that may very well just be part of the experience. It's gearing you up to stop that, if that makes sense. So I had my spin out. I had my period, a prolonged period of allowing my body to sort of seize up, if you will, and get all this inflammation and experience a lot of pain. And I wouldn't go back and change that. I wouldn't look at that and say, gosh, if I'd been more source aligned to begin with, I would have never had that experience. Well, you can say that about everything. If I had been more source aligned to begin with, I would have never gone to school. I would have never gotten a job. I would have never gotten into a relationship. I would have just gone and sat in a forest somewhere and appreciated the nature around me and just been. But how are you expanding in that experience? You're source aligned, it's lovely, but it's boring as hell because you're not creating. You are not driven to create. And very often, as complex beings, and we have to create the suffering to then create the solution to the suffering. And where we're going in Taya is learning to appreciate that entire experience. It's really cold here today. That's why I'm coughing. It's really dry and cold here today. To appreciate that entire experience. That, wait a minute, I created the solution, or I allowed the solution to form through my suffering. Therefore, the suffering held value for me. The suffering was an experience that I created for myself. So when you're asking, how do we avoid this in the first place, or how do we get there faster? That's hammering. That's thinking that the unwanted is something that source isn't wanting us to experience. That's not true. Remember that source, and we are source, appreciates all that is. So in our appreciation of all that is, we can, I was going to say must, but really we can find appreciation for the things that the matrix tells us we're not supposed to appreciate, and realize that we create these scenarios so that we can create the solution and move through the experience. And that expands us as human beings and expands us eternally as source beings. I met a neighbor yesterday, and he was talking about losing money in the last big recession. He said he lost over $4 million, overnight in the 2008 recession. And he's an older guy, and I could tell how at peace he is now with that experience. Because here he is, he lives comfortably in a nice home in a nice neighborhood. He's still around. He still has his life experience going on, and I could tell in the way that he shared that and his vibe in that moment that he has done a lot of work probably to make peace with losing millions of dollars that way. But in the beginning, it was probably very stressful. So it would be easy to think, well, gosh, if you're a source aligned being, you never have the problem to begin with, so you never experience the losing of the $4 million. Well, here this guy is sitting completely at peace with the experience of having lost $4 million. It was completely okay, and he was really in a high vibrational state of being and sharing that, which shows me that he has done the work. Not because he's a Taya practitioner. In fact, he's probably done the work, not even really understanding that he did the work, other than the fact that he wanted to move on. His ego was wanting him to move on and live with himself and live with what occurred. He didn't say that he made it all back times 10 or anything like that. There was no triumphant comeback. He just said, he lost all this money. And he used to live in a much bigger house and even fancier neighborhood even. But he was in appreciation of where he landed. And so he was able to see the value in the experience that he had. That's what Taya is. Taya is just giving us the secret codes to all of this stuff. Humanity is doing this for itself all the time. This universal process of creation that we talk about all the time, that's what it is. It's the up, it's the down, it's the up, it's the down. It's the manifesting something that we want and then manifesting a spin out of something that we don't want, and then moving through that experience and ultimately manifesting some sort of solving of it. And we judge ourselves sometimes in the time that we spend in the unwanted condition or manifestation. But the truth is, it's the perfect amount of time because that's what you manifested. The concept that it should be shorter, more brief, you should be more efficient, that's all matrix bullshit. That's all your ego. So knowing that your ego is the thing that gets you into the trouble, and your ego is ultimately the thing that gets you out of it. Your ego is the vehicle. We have a physical vehicle for experiencing the earth environment tactily, but we have a mental vehicle or an emotional vehicle, which is our ego, that creates this human journey. So source is appreciation of all that is, but you're just being a source being in a physical vehicle isn't going to deliver any expansion, because the source being isn't going to suffer. The source being isn't going to judge. The source being isn't going to say, okay, enough of this pain, because it's appreciation of all that is. But there's still something with in David's question, in the not wanting the illness or physical pain. And I understand that. I have to tell you, I'm feeling a whole lot better now, and it feels a whole lot better to be able to get right out of bed in the morning without experiencing pain, or go to the bathroom in the middle of the night without experiencing pain, or being able to take a nice long walk like I did yesterday, as opposed to being in pain just walking to the mailbox. So yes, that improvement is appreciated, but my ego created the spin out. My ego decided that, oh, the gym is closed, COVID's here, might as well cook and bake and eat and put on the weight and not worry about it, until I was tired of the experience. And then the gift in the middle of that was, well, wait a minute, I've got a lot of detuning to do around my opinion of me based on how I appear, not just how I feel. There was still some of that old vibrational dust of, you need to look a certain way. If you don't look a certain way, there's something wrong with you. But source isn't thinking that. Source is thinking your perfection exactly the way you are, because this is what you've manifested. So I hope I'm making sense here, and that the source version of us is something that has been really overshadowed in the Matrix, for sure. And so much so that humanity is creating scenarios to move more and more toward source. We always are moving toward source. No matter what, it's inevitable. Source is not going to die or go away. If that's all that is. That energy is all that is. That energy is all love, all abundance, all well-being, all expansion, all the time, and nothing other than that. The only thing that's counter to that is our ego, and that ego portion of this experience is a good thing, because it exists to drive us into unwanted scenarios, because the vibration drops, we judge, we fear, we attract unwanted things, and ultimately to allow us a path out of it. Because if we didn't have the ego, we wouldn't be looking for a way to move out of it. And yes, that manifests in endless ways, but however it manifests is not judged by source. However it manifests is certainly not judged the way that the Matrix teaches us to judge it. It's not judged at all. It's whatever your experience is. If the experience separates you from your physical vehicle, then so be it. From the source perspective, that's fine. From the source perspective, there is absolutely no problem in being separated from the physical vehicle, because we're all eternal beings here having a temporary human experience. The Matrix tells us we're supposed to live a long life, that you're not supposed to die young. You're supposed to live to be, a ripe old age, and that's a good life. And anything other than that is something less than. But that's not true. That's not true. Source tells us that any type of manifestation into physical has expansive qualities to it, therefore has value, even if we don't make it out of the womb. So as we move forward in these teachings, where we're guiding all of you is to understand what your eternal source being is and what your ego is, be at peace with both of them, but understand the process enough to where you can find value more efficiently, because we're ego-driven beings, so why not? And really understand the nature of humanity and the nature of life. That makes a massive difference to the life experience when you're really understanding what's going on, to the point where you're not judging any other being for having their human journey. Even the ones that are so deep in the Matrix that they're incredibly judgmental and incredibly rule bound and incredibly in fear, that's okay. That's okay. They're having their experience. They're having their human experience. It doesn't impact our human experience unless we allow it to by bringing it in vibrationally. And we can be in full appreciation of them having their unique human journey. So that's really what I wanted to share today. And I want to take an opportunity to thank all of you for watching live and interacting. I really love doing these. I'm gonna have to cut this one short because my laptop is dying and I didn't plug it in. I love doing these outside, but part of being outside is sometimes I forget to grab my plug and I can't just plug in and keep going. So I hope you got something out of this today. If there's something that you want to see in Sunday Soul Food, just type messages in Patreon, let us know what it is. But what I really wanted to impart today is where this journey is leading all of us, and the fact that whatever our spin out is or whatever our unwanted circumstance is, the faster we move to authentic appreciation of it, the faster we're going to solve it. And to reiterate the answer to David's question, the faster we authentically appreciate it, yes, we're going to solve it, but let's don't get in such a hurry. Let's be in more of an allowing state. Let's allow ourselves to move through the experience in grace and ease. And we do that by teaching ourselves not to judge the physical pain and learning to play with the physical pain a little bit. Okay, I have this illness, I have this physical pain going on. My ego or the matrix is telling me that it's wrong and I shouldn't have it. What if I think differently about that? What if I choose to think differently about this experience? You can apply that to anything. What if I choose? I have a belief system that I have created, and a lot of it I adopted from the matrix. You can say this to yourself. And when I create an unwanted situation for myself, maybe I'm creating that unwanted situation so that I can learn to experience it from a higher perspective. That's what Taya is all about. That's what the stream has been offering to us. Let's move through this life journey of ups and downs and learn to detune the judgment of it. And when we are in an unwanted experience, teach ourselves to experience it differently. And appreciation is always the key to aligning with Source. This is what I've manifested. I appreciate the fact that I'm here in a physical vehicle temporarily, and this is exactly where I am. This is what I've manifested. And my ego in the matrix is the thing that tells me that it's wrong. But Source is saying, appreciate it all. So what if I play with that a little bit? What if I just go into deep, authentic appreciation and appreciate the pain while I'm in it? Appreciate the illness while I'm suffering from it. And see what happens. See how you make that experience shift energetically. And then when you come out of it, you can look back in appreciation and say, gosh, I thought I was in that for so long. Really, I wasn't. And while I was in that scenario, I expanded my consciousness in having the experience. The only reason it was bad or wrong or unwanted was because I was taught in the matrix that I wasn't supposed to have it. But I did. It's what I manifested. And anything that I manifest for me, for my expansion. That's why we manifest physically, to have the imperfect human experience. And when you start having these spin outs or these low vibrational periods, and you start making sense of them that way, that's when you're moving into a higher dimension here on Earth, because you're learning to experience this Earth environment very differently. And those of you that have been in the practice for a while have done enough to know that you can have experiences and shock yourself at how you have them so differently than you would have before your practice. That's why the practice has such value for us that choose it. Well, I want to thank you again for watching live and all of your interaction. I do appreciate it. If you're watching this on replay, continue to comment, question. We do interact with those comments and things like that. And let us know what else you want to see here on Sunday Soul Food. Talk to you soon.